started. I'm Elizabeth. I'm from Branch. I organize these meetups across the world. So you guys are part of a global community of over 38 meetup chapters. We're at almost 12,000 members this time, which if you were at our last meetup, we were only about 10,000. So we've added a lot of mobile developers, marketers, and mobile-first businesses into the crowd. So Branch, if you guys don't know what we do or who we are, we're a deep linking solution from Palo Alto, California. I go all over the world, so I have to say that. And we do free and open source deep links so that you can help your app grow. First, before we get started, I just wanted to ask a quick question. How many of you guys have been to a mobile growth meetup here in San Francisco before? All right, so there's a lot of new folks here tonight. Welcome, and some old faces too. And I see a couple of familiar faces. I'm probably older than everyone. Good call, though. Good call. I do see some former panelists here too. So thank you guys for coming out tonight. How many of you guys have an app already launched to one of the stores? Congratulations. And how many of you guys are still building your first app? Good luck. Talk to us if you need help. And I know that you have a lot of developers in the room, so I'm curious, how many raise your hand if you're an iOS developer? And Android? Okay, iOS is winning. Sorry, Android. And how many of you are involved in some aspect in mobile, whether it's like product marketing or technical marketing, just a mobile-first business? All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys all for coming out. It's good to know who we have in a crowd. The next thing that I want to do is invite our sponsors to come up. So Jeremy from Leanplum is going to say a couple words about Leanplum. Let's give Leanplum a round of applause for letting us be here tonight.
Hi, I'm Leanplum. Thanks for coming to the Mobile Growth Bay Area Meetup, otherwise known as MIGBAM. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. That's not better known as at all. Thanks for everybody for coming. My name is Justin Hypes. I'm the Director of Global Enterprise Sales for Leanplum. And thanks everybody for coming. Real quick, wanted to give you a brief overview of Leanplum. Way back in 2012, which is ancient history for startups, our fearless leaders and co-founders started Leanplum. They came from Google, where they were heading up the growth team in charge of optimizing YouTube ads. So they essentially together were driving engagement for YouTube. And they realized the opportunity to reimagine mobile marketing for the mobile world. So fast forward to today, where we've had several rounds of funding, many iterations of our product, building out a kick-ass office just downstairs. And here we are today. So we're making apps smarter and empowering brands like Nordstrom, Lyft, Expedia, many others. Hopefully some more growing from this room right here. And really the point was to drive mobile engagement and results. So our integrated mobile marketing automation solution ties together content management, personalized messaging, analytics, behavioral segmentation, and all with the ability to A/B test everything. So essentially, we're helping engage users both in and outside of the app, and we're helping marketers learn and act fast. So there's several Leanplumbers in the audience. After the panel, don't hesitate to grab one of us if you have any questions, want to learn more. But without further ado, I'll hand it back to Elizabeth from Branch. Thanks, guys.
Okay, one more word about some people that make this happen. So if you guys don't know Grow.co, they are an awesome company out of New York. They do all kinds of stuff for growth marketing, and they are also have a group on Google that is vendor-free, where you can go ask a lot of questions, get a lot of really good answers. If you don't already get their newsletter, you will now. So thanks for coming out tonight. And if you guys have any questions about Grow, Matt from Grow is here. I don't see him immediately, but he looks like he would be a guy from New York. So just look for that guy. And then the last thing I want to do is tell you a little bit about a webinar. Dina from Prolific is actually here if you guys want to talk to her about it. at all. She's running a webinar along with Branch. Mata will be giving part of the talk, and we're working with Amplitude. It's on Friday. You can register at bnc.lt/prolific. That's the easiest way to get there, and it's going to be really awesome. It sounds like it's going to be a really good, informative webinar about how to court your users better. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Mata Zagedi from Branch. So if you guys have any questions about deep linking after her talk, feel free to find anyone in a Branch shirt or in Branch gear. We're happy to answer any questions. But in the meantime, Mata, take it away.
Hi guys! First of all, thank you for coming. It's kind of amazing how much our meetups have grown. I still remember our first meetup 14 months ago at StartX. About 40 people, so we've come a long, long way from that, so thank you so much for being part of this. So I'm going to spend about 5 minutes on this presentation, and instead of giving you a presentation on like Branch or what we do, I'm actually going to try to make it useful. So I tried to think about what do I know most of, and before Branch, and the way we started Branch, I actually built an app. It was a photo book printing app, and I ran all the advertising for it. And from our struggles as app developers, Branch was created, and one of the things we were struggling with was, we didn't have a lot of money, and how can we optimize our paid campaigns? So I'm going to go to 3 ways you can do that. So first off, let's talk about the problem, user acquisition. So for all of you who have mobile apps, you know how hard it is. It's very expensive, especially in some categories, like games and e-commerce. You probably know how much a Facebook install is. It's between $5 and $8 an install. And generic install ads create very impersonal experiences. So you can't really, if you show someone an ad for, an app, for an e-commerce app, and you could show them a pair of shoes, but if they go from that app and they're not taken to the right pair of shoes, they're probably not going to convert. So one of the things that we do here at Branch, and one of the things that we built Branch for, was the ability to do contextual deep linked ads. So one of our partners, Hotel Tonight, did this test. So they were, instead of running, so they ran next to each other ads to just Hotel Tonight, the app, but they also ran ads to specific hotels in the area where the user was. So what they saw as a result was their cost per install decreased by 16%, and their conversion to booking increased. So if you show someone a hotel that's very relevant, and then you take them straight to the hotel instead of just taking them to the generic app install, it really increases conversion. And this is an experiment that I ran. So one of our partners, All the Cooks, gave me access to their Facebook account. So they're basically an app that allows you to find interesting recipes. So I decided to run this test and figure out if I show a regular deep link ad, and that's the last one, versus I picked 3 different recipes. So one was an apple rose pie, one was green kebabs, and one was the chicken broccoli. And what was really interesting is each of those ads behave incredibly differently. So the regular, and because I was going after these audiences, I actually created very, very specific audiences for each. So for the first one, I picked people who like desserts. The second one, people who like weird foods. Third one, it was a very weird image. And then for the third one, people who like quick, easy eats. And the last one was just literally learn how to cook, look for recipes. And if you see, the first 2 actually perform worse than just the regular ad, because those audiences were a lot smaller, and I couldn't find enough people based on interest to run those ads. But the chicken broccoli one, the audience was a lot larger, and it actually performed much better. The cost per install decreased. They got more post likes and all that. So, which is an interesting experiment. I think deep links kind of allow you to do all of that, and they don't always. Going to content doesn't always work and means it's better. It just allows you to segment your users and give them better experiences. And there's just one thing that we also do. If the ad doesn't show you a preview of what they're going to get in the app, we have this thing called deep views that allows you to first take users to a preview of the ad, and we saw that actually increases conversions as well. Okay, and then the other 2 ideas was one of the things I was trying to do for Kindred, and I was getting very frustrated. I was trying to create promotions and do ads And only someone coming from my specific ad or promotion, once they install, I wanted them to get a promotion. And I was like, why can't you do that? So one of the things we made sure that our deep links is the ability to create a coupon, and if someone comes from the deep link, when they open the ad, the app for the first time, they get the coupon, and that ends up helping users convert. And that's kind of something that Charlotte did with us, and they did really well, and it helped really boost their conversions. And lastly, be creative, and this is an example of Yummy and Instacart. So if you find other apps that you can work with, if you have good content in your app that works with good content in other apps, doing that cross-promotion and paying for affiliate programs instead of like going and spending all your money on Facebook can work really well. And if you have more questions, I'll be around, and anyone with branch logo on them also can help as well, so thank you.
All right. What next? The panel. Okay, so these are all of our Twitter handles. Please tweet with mobile growth. We always look at the tweets, so you'll see me furiously at the side, probably retweeting you. And for the best tweet of the night, I have a hoodie. So you'll see a direct tweet from me calling you out to come meet me at the table before the end of the night so that you can grab a branch hoodie and be super awesome like all the other people who have branch hoodies. But I'd like to invite the panel up now, so if Alan and Josh and Zaid can join me, and Ryan. Thanks, guys. All right. That one was for you, so you're going to have to share a mic, and then awesome. Ryan's got a mic on his own. And we're going to get started.
Right on.
Go for it. I'm going to run this way. Sorry, guys.
Well, thank everybody for coming. I want to do a quick poll. Elizabeth already sort of did this, but I wanted to learn a little bit more about the stage that you guys are at with your apps and your companies so we can kind of frame questions around that. Who's, let's say, seed stage or figuring it out, which technically you're figuring it out really for a long time. Okay, in Series A, Series B, and I'm not really trying to say this is like you're more cool if you're later, but more so, what are your challenges at the stage you're at? Are your challenges like, I can't get a building permit for my new office, or your challenge like, I need my first 1,000 users? So who's like first 1,000 users, let's put it that way. Okay, who's like first 1,000,000 users or scale, it doesn't break? Okay, right on. I think that's a better way to phrase it. Remember it for next time. So there's obviously a lot to talk about with growth, and it's not just about page views, traffic, and particularly with mobile when we don't necessarily own the page we're looking at, i.e. the App Store or some other third-party property. There's a lot to think about, and so I want to frame this a little bit around the aspects of growth, such as how do people find you? Once they find you, how do you get them to care? Once they kind of care, how do you get them to keep caring? How do you keep them interested? But to start, I want to dive in with a little bit of an icebreaker. A lot of us saw the Super Bowl. Did any of you guys download this Quicken app to get a mortgage from your phone? Like, is that not the problem with America, that we can get a mortgage on our phone? Or what does everybody think about it? Whoever wants to go first.
Not sure it's on the end,
So the idea is that it's a Rocket Mortgage with Quicken, and they're kind of parodying themselves now. I watched like 10 more commercials when I walked over here today. You can use their mortgage calculator and basically get a loan from your phone without going to the bank or doing all the normal things we're used to get a loan. And a lot of people were sort of stunned by it and thinking, is this a comeback from Quicken? Is this Quicken trying to reach a new demographic? Is this a joke? Is this a PR stunt? Is this lead gen for their primary products? And I was curious, if any of you guys hadn't heard of it, then we'll move on. But if you had, I'd love to hear some insights, because this was all my friends talked about that Super Bowl weekend.
I'm waiting until I can afford a house here before I download the app.
Yeah, I mean, it was something I saw and was like, who's having that problem, right? That I need to try and download a mortgage on the fly. I viewed it as a way for them to try and engage a new audience, and I think at least the ability to like share, like compare rates and stuff like that is probably the useful tool. But yeah, I mean, how much was it? Awesome, just a stunt?
We don't know. Does anyone know? No opinions. All right, so none of us like football. That's fine.
Well, I mean, I was a little intrigued that that's what you and your friends talked about for the entire Super Bowl.
Okay, right on. So not a great icebreaker. I have another icebreaker prepared. Which is, and I'm not the first person to say this, I think someone mentioned to me earlier today that Dave McClure said this, and others have kind of made similar sentiments, but when you have an app, you're sort of competing for attention, you're competing for minutes, and unlike computers where we're always working and having fun and on Facebook, apps are a little more pointed. We can look at the metrics. I looked at a report from Washington Times last week that says we spend 4.7 hours a day on our phone, which is crazy in that we're on average asleep 7 hours, we're awake like 15.6 hours. So this is like a third of our time we're on our phone. So let's say that's 5 hours, 60 minutes, there's 300 minutes of attention that potentially as app developers we're competing for. And I'm curious what you guys think about it, because as these other guys have said less eloquently, you're sort of competing for time on the toilet or time at the desk. And how do you guys think about it when you're competing for attention? What type of minutes, the quality of the minutes, the context of the user? And I would love to start with Josh, because Zynga and games kind of just screams to me, where the hell are people doing this? And how do you guys think about it?
Yeah, so the answer for us is all of the above. So we have a whole portfolio of mobile apps and games, and they're all designed differently to capture different types of sessions. So if you think about a game like Words with Friends, right? So people are playing Words with Friends on average more than 10 times every day. The session lengths are 2 minutes or less every day, and so that's a very, very specific type of session. And so when we think about our marketing messaging, or we think about our growth channels that we leverage, or when we think about the features that we put into game, we tailor them towards those sessions. The sessions that we know players want to have in our game and the ones that make sense for them. For a game like Empires and Allies, I don't know if any of you have played it, it's more of a mid-core game, and so we find that there are fewer sessions in the day, but those sessions are a lot longer. And so that tells us that people are playing our games in different ways. It doesn't mean that we've designed one or the other poorly, it's just that people want to experience the games in different ways, and so we sort of tailor the experiences that way.
I think for us, so I work at Gogobot, and at Gogobot we're a travel company. We help you find places to go, restaurants, attractions. And I think the big thing for us is context. That's a big theme for us. So if, I'll use Uber as an example. For example, you you have a restaurant dinner planned, you're gonna only call Uber in that context. You're not gonna be sort of on the toilet unless it's a weird thing going on. But for Gogobot, the context matters. So if we know you're traveling and in a new location, that's the time when we know you're going to care about the content of the app. And so it's not really going to be when you're waiting in line at the supermarket or on the toilet, but probably when you are walking or strolling around a new city and you just want to find a great coffee shop or a great attraction that might be nearby. And then sort of the other context is, if you're planning something a little bit more in advance, so like a weekend activity or what should I do tonight, then the context is a little bit different. So we sort of are trying to capture that context based on your location, the time of day, and provide the right recommendation based on that. So that's how we do things.
We at 500px may come the closest to competing with both the desks and the toilets. If you're not familiar with 500px, we're a photo sharing site that focuses on those who want to talk about and consume serious photography. And so we actually have both kind of a B2B and a B2C aspect of our business, because we start with this really passionate photography community who has been kind of the core of our desktop and web experiences. But as we extended into mobile apps in particular, we found much more casual consumers starting to come on. People who just enjoy looking at beautiful photography, but they want to only consume it for 3 to 5 minutes perhaps. Versus the passionate photographers who are spending hours a day on our apps. And then from our B2B perspective, those are people who are actually looking to license the work for use in commercial use. So book covers, advertising ads, websites, billboards. Those people are coming very much in a desk environment. They very much, when we look at their usage, they are on the site Monday to Friday, very follow-up on the weekends. And so our challenge then with them is competing not only through access points, right, both from desktop and mobile, but also having to compete against a much larger set of competitors, right, that we are constantly trying to keep in front of our audience for time and attention in that regard.
So I wanted to hang with you, Ellen. Let's go into a little bit of discovery. Let's talk about discovery, let's talk about them caring, and then let's talk about getting more of those people who will find you and then care. if I need a professional photo, it's Monday afternoon, like you said, business hours, weekday. How do you find me? How do I find you? What's maybe the push and the pull there? If I go on Google, am I going to find you? What are you seeing with your users? How is my discovery? Because for me, I constantly need professional photos for content, right? Why spend 5 hours writing a blog post unless I have some kick-ass images to go beside it? Because all the data shows us if there's images, people care. So it's kind of, to me, a necessary evil, no offense, right? To have awesome imagery next to the words that I or someone on the content team is writing. So how do you find me in that moment, right? Because some challenges that you guys might have different from Josh and Zaid are that I'm always looking for a spare minute to do something fun. I'm always looking to escape like the work reality, so I'm looking at games. I'm always looking to like plan my next trip, my next vacation, so some things are top of mind. But with you, what you guys are doing, it's a little more specific. You know, there's like a window of opportunity, and how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's a great question and a bit of an ongoing challenge because we started as a community site, we actually really grew the community on the back of word of mouth, press mentions, and kind of social referrals. And then when we turned to kind of the B2B side, I think at the time of our founding, which we've had the marketplace now available for 2 years, I think we were maybe a little over-optimistic that we would be able to use some of those same techniques to actually find the buyers. And we actually had hoped that the community themselves was going to be this amazing marketing channel, and they weren't. You know, some of those made their work available for commercial licensing, definitely kind of did the sharing and promotion. But as we've started to grow up as a marketplace, we are finding it has been about SEO. You know, it has been starting to look at search engine marketing, going to some of those more traditional marketing channels against some much more deep-pocketed competitors. So we've tried to override that with much more of a focus for us actually in terms of getting some press attention and kind of just keeping a slow and steady pace at that, because we are finding that sometimes finding those like quality mentions of you in the press or something like that can be more impactful than even half the paid marketing that you end up doing.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the customer journey as it relates to getting to mobile, because a lot of us are building mobile, but also making a desktop version, or at the very least, a landing page. So maybe I search on Google for professional images, and I find your website, and then I download the mobile app because I see that you have that, or am I searching on the App Store? Like, what is the journey like to get to your mobile destination? Is it straight there, or is that kind of like post-activation of the sign-up, you then get me on your mobile offering?
So for 500px, we're in kind of a strange situation in that we have not found the buyer community actually gravitating toward mobile. And it's a little bit of a tough one for us because we would both like them to and not like them to, right? Because, so we keep monitoring this through looking at how many visits we get through mobile browsers. We do have an app, but it does not have the ability for a buyer to actually transact through it. And so we keep looking at both ourselves and what we see in the competitive set, being like, do we need to do this? Is this time? But there's kind of actually a natural disincentive to want to see our community gravitate toward apps, because then we have to deal with the app stores and the percentage of the transaction that they would like to claim. So we're kind of perversely incented to be happy that our audience has not yet gravitated toward mobile, and we are probably much more looking toward the experience, right, of kind of the mobile optimized websites rather than going in the app direction. That being said, we have certainly found the biggest thing we have found having an impact in terms of app installs is whenever we get featured in the app stores under the photography category. It's just the immediate spike.
Gotcha. Okay, so for you guys, mobile can kind of be lead gen. It can keep your product top of mind for someone who's already a user.
Yeah, and we are finding that some of our buyers use it kind of as the ancillary environment right to the desktop. So that buyer who wants to start searching can actually do so during their commute. They'll look through the app and things like that. They can share to a gallery, but then we find they don't actually complete the transaction until they get into work and have access to their desktop. And one of the things that we found even challenging is that there's actually this chain of purchase, that oftentimes the person who is the one who's maybe deciding, oh, I want to use this image on the website, but the person in the finance department actually holds the credit card. So we're having to get smarter about understanding this chain of the decision maker versus the actual purchaser. We have not always found to be the same.
So what you're saying is you should be sending the finance person a deep link through branch to the checkout page. Okay, got it.
Yes.
So what do you guys think about mobile? Is mobile like #1 priority for Zynga, or are you guys kind of agnostic, however users want to find you?
Yeah, so Zynga is definitely a mobile-first company now. It's been a transition period for us for the last 3 years or so. But the reason we're a mobile-first company is because mobile is still growing and because mobile has some of the best growth channels that ever existed. I mean, if you think about how Zynga grew up, we grew up on Facebook, and Facebook's growth channels were really interesting and they were really powerful because they were new, but they were also really vulnerable. Push notifications as a channel, for instance, as a growth channel, because retention is growth, is so much more powerful than anything we ever had on Facebook. And so, that's the realization that we've had. Not only is mobile growing, but the channels are really, really strong, and we can reach users sort of all of the time. So as long as we're driving value in the game experience, people will come to us and drive more sessions, and invite more friends, and pay more money. So that's how we think about it.
Got it. Zaid, what do you guys think? If I find your website, right, I've signed up and I download your mobile app, am I now more valuable to you? Or, again, kind of the same question. Are you agnostic to the platform? Do you tout kind of maybe the inverse of what Ellen said, that maybe there's a better experience on mobile than web?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So mobile, I'll say mobile app specifically, is more valuable to us. And the reason it is because we value retention tremendously, because that's how we build stickiness and growth. So wherever your product has the greatest retention, the greatest likelihood of getting people to come back, mobile app has the advantage that Josh mentioned of push notifications, being on your phone, having a really seamless, powerful, sort of at the OS level experience that it generally is superior to any mobile web experience. That said, the challenge is growth, and I know Branch's whole mission is to help companies solve that. The flip side of mobile web and web in general, the benefit there is the friction is so low, and it's the biggest source of traffic for most companies, and our biggest competitors, in fact, is SEO. So pretty much virtually every query related to travel, you can imagine, what are the best hotels in San Francisco, what are the best restaurants in New York, one of two companies will always show up to the top, and that's how they grow, and that's sort of where most of their user growth is. And they've taken advantage of that low friction experience to upsell users. You've probably seen those banners, sort of block users from content to get them to download. That said, it's actually a lot harder to play in the SEO game now. It is a big part of our growth, but it's still, we're very much looking past that because Google is very much coming into our space. You've probably seen any query, like if you type Ozumo or some restaurant, Google's own content now supersedes any other organic search result. It's almost, I don't quote me on this, but
there's definitely Googlers.
I won't go there. But yeah, it's getting really competitive. So you'll want to find hedges, and mobile apps is one way to do that.
So I want to talk a little bit about things both you and Josh have said, which is that there's a ton of ways to grow on mobile, and that retention is key. Because for me, I'm kind of like, I'm the most ignorant one here, and that's why I'm asking questions. When I think of mobile and how to retain users, I sort of get afraid because I see a very limited bag of tricks. I see you've got push notifications, you could send emails, although like none of the mobile apps on my phone ever email me ever. Half of them don't even have my email, right? Because they want to just put me in the experience. You can do text messages, I'm seeing more and more, which is kind of just a different way to do push. A lot of people have it turned off on their phone level. And then you can do like banners, badges. But there's a very, to me, there's a very limited group of things you can do because it's, it's on a closed system. You're using, it's up to iPhone, it's up to Android, what they'll allow you. How do you guys work around that? It kind of triggered me that, you think that the possibilities are so wide when to me I see such a restraint that on web you kind of don't have to the same degree.
Yeah, so you mentioned push notifications. To us, those are one of the most powerful channels for attention by far. If you guys don't have those enabled, definitely should. That's going to be probably one of, if not the biggest driver of retention. That said, it can be very artificial if you don't have a good reason to come back and sort of long-term value that you can provide the user. It's going to be a tactical strategy that will give you, short-term bumps, but if you don't have them sticking around because you're not providing them any long-term value, they'll drop out. So if you can sort of play around with the copy, with the timing, with the frequency, and balance all those different things, that could be the biggest needle mover for retention. And then on the flip side, maximizing the percentage of people that adopt. So adopt push notifications. So we know iOS always had this from the beginning. You have to accept push notification permissions to receive them. So there's lots of best practices out there to provide soft prompts, which are contextual reasons to accept those push notifications. Android is now requiring that with their latest operating system. M now requires the same permissions. So making sure you do all those things from the top of your funnel, asking so the right time, the right place, and then testing all those variants of notifications can be probably one of the biggest drivers to drive retention and grow your.
Yeah, I totally agree. At Zynga, we realize there are a limited pool of retention, engagement, growth channels that we have, and that push and SMS and email and a couple others are incredibly powerful. And so, shame on you if you're not a good steward of that channel. So to Zaid's points, we spend a lot of time optimizing push notification enablement. We monitor very, very closely uninstall rates and disablement rates. We are super, super judicious with the kinds of tests that we run with push and sort of only focus on campaigns that are driving the most value because we know how valuable that channel is in the long run. And so where you see a lot of people get in trouble with push is when it's super easy essentially to spam users with push because if you're just sort of looking at the short-term metrics, you'll see, wow, we're getting a crap ton of sessions from these push notifications. This is great, engagement is up. But if you're not tracking sort of the long-term downstream metrics, you burn out that channel over time, and that's something that you have to be really, really careful of.
Yeah, I've definitely been in the camp. I've done push wrong. I've worked on a few mobile apps on their growth. And yeah, exactly what you described, the demise of everyone just opened it because they just hit go, but half of them turn it off. How many in here feel like they're doing push right? Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. So